Analytics is the main system interface for working with traffic stats. It's equally handy for your NOC engineers, salespeople, or company owners because it can display the statistical information on very different levels, from the overall company KPIs down to the performance of a single customer vendor channel. The interface is split into two parts. In the upper part, you can select an object or a combination of objects to view the stats for. And as soon as you select a line here in the upper table, like total for the whole company in our case, the bottom table immediately displays you the information for that selected object for different periods of time. Minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, and you can adjust the time frame by means of these sliders or by manually typing in the dates and timing into the interval control. The upper table lets you slice the total line by a number of different other parameters, for example, by country. Okay, so now we're looking at the stats for different countries for the 24th of November. And if I select a different day here, like the 25th of November, the list of countries and the stats get immediately refreshed. By the way, it's very easy to sort the upper table by clicking on the header of any column. Okay, so for example, if I choose a country out of the list here, the table below will only show me the stats for the selected country, like China in this case. And I can further slice China by client, for example, to see who were my clients for China on the 25th of November. Okay, then I can look at the networks in China that client was buying from me. Okay, and I want to see the vendors for China Telecom for just that client on just 25th of November. Okay, SMS carrier 1. And if I want to, I can go deeper down to the level of the vendor channel, for example, and see the stats for it. The information in the lower table can be displayed as a table or as a diagram, depending on what I want to. I can easily add or remove parameters from the diagrams or jump between diagrams with preset metrics. If I want to, I can also choose to compare two time frames, for example, with a 7 days offset, day by day. So Friday to Friday, Saturday to Saturday, etc. And if we look at the list of the metrics available, it starts with the volume and quality indicators, message attempts, number of successful messages, ASR, DLR successful, DLR total, and the number of delivered messages. Let me quickly explain how these three columns work. The ASR gives you the percentage of messages successfully accepted for delivery by your vendor in the total number of message attempts. The DLR-S shows you how many of messages successfully accepted by the vendor later got delivery reports. And DLR-T shows you the similar percentage of messages with the delivery reports out of the total scope of message attempts. So let me illustrate with a simple example. So let's say I have sent 100 message attempts to a vendor. 50 of them were accepted by that vendor for delivery. And for 25, I finally got delivery reports. So the ASR is going to be 50% because I had 100 messages, 50 of them got accepted by the vendor. DLR-S is going to be 50% because out of the 50 messages successfully accepted, 25 got delivery reports. And DLR-T is going to be just 25% because they were 100 message attempts, and for 25 of them, I got delivery reports. That's how these things work. Then we have the margin, the total cost on the customer and supplier sides, And then the rates, even the single rates can be displayed here, also on the customer and supplier sides. When the system has more than 3 rates hidden in the line, like for example the total by country, it's obviously more than 3 different rates, the system just displays the dots. And if you want to get rid of those dots and see the real figures, the real rates, you can just slice that general line by more granular aspects. For example, country by networks or network by FCC MLCs or whatever, so that the system will be able to narrow the scope and display the rates here. You can also export the information from the analytical interface into the Excel from the top table and the bottom table. And to some degree, you can customize the appearance of the interface, changing the colors that will be used here. For example, I want the attempts bar to be purple. Okay, or for example, I can tell the system that I consider all ASR below 35% as poor, and I can select a color for it. And similarly, I can play with DLRs if I want to. Also, I can show or hide columns if I want to. The system will remember my settings, so next time it will show the same sequence of columns as I selected the previous time. Since the system collects statistical information from the switching module every minute, it collects billing records every minute, it is able to show you the stats even on the per minute basis. There is a question of how to handle the time frames that are not yet over. So, for example, the current hour or the current day or the current month or whatever. It does not make a lot of sense to ask the same question for minutes, because the system only gets fresh billing records once in a minute. But for hours and dates, the question is quite actual. So there is a very important parameter in the administration system settings chapter, the SMS part of it. The parameter is called stats calculation threshold, SMS per hour. So it tells the system how soon it needs to start calculating the stats for the current hour. So for example, if I set this threshold to 100 messages, the system will start showing me the stats as soon as the total number of messages for the current hour has reached 100 messages. But the reverse side of it is that if I set this parameter to a very small value, like 100 messages during a heavy traffic hour is nothing. So for example, I may have like 50,000 messages per hour easily. So that means that the system will have to constantly recalculate the special statistical tables we call analytical cubes, and therefore it will not be able to display the actual stats. So it makes sense to adjust this value of this parameter according to the current traffic parameters that you have. So during the testing period, when you just get down to using the system, it may make sense to set this parameter to a very low value, like 5 or 10 per hour, so that you'll be able to immediately see your first messages in the analytics after you send them. And during the real traffic days, I mean when you have production traffic, you should look at the traffic patterns and probably set it to 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 messages per hour. Also, there is another question. When can you trust the stats that you see here in this interface, and where does it make sense to wait? Yeah, because the system may be recalculating the current period, or because of the EDR re-rating, it may have to recalculate past periods as well, so that the traffic stats here in the interface may become obsolete. There is a special report in the reports section called Administration SMS Analytical Cube Status. It shows you the current status of all analytical tables for all possible time steps: minutes, hours, days, weeks, and months, and finance, which means special invoicing tables. So for example, if we run the daily report, we'll see that Most of the cubes are empty. Some of them are non-empty, but there are no new CDR counts, so nothing needs to be recalculated. The cubes are ready for display, so the interface displays the correct data. So it makes sense to look at this report from time to time when it comes to viewing the stats for recent time frames to make sure we are looking at the actual information.